you get a discount.
Hey, please send it to me.
Sure.
Okay, we're going live. And we're live. Welcome, everybody. To
What is
Pundits
up?
Sports.
What is up? What is up?
F1. What's up, Sid? What's up, James? How are you guys doing? And what's up, chat? How's everyone doing today?
All great. Just
All
logging
great.
on, I guess.
We have a few people waiting for the stream to start. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, guys. Oh my God, my ring light. से बीच बीच ऐसा लग रहा है गाँव में हूँ मैं.
Sid
कहाँ
has
पे जहाँ पे
descended to
power
darkness
electricity.
already.
Just a second. Just give me a minute.
Yeah. Krishna saying Daniel Ricciardo fans, where you at? Daniel Ricciardo fans are everywhere, man. They are everywhere. I think there's one watching this stream right now, and 2-3 people are on this stream right now who are streaming who are all Daniel Ricciardo fans. I don't think there's anybody who's not a Daniel Ricciardo fan.
But a lot has happened this week with Daniel and Lando. Like people were expecting.
Having said that, welcome everyone.
Yeah.
People were expecting what?
People are expecting this. See, Daniel has also that personality where he's very fun. He's too much fun, and Lando is also fun. So they expected the chemistry to be, very like अरे goofy type, अरे कैसा है तू, like Sainz और Lando का था. But अभी after Lando was asked what are your statements on Ricciardo struggling, he's like, frankly, I have no sympathy for him. It was his move to come to McLaren, so it is not my duty to make him feel good. I was like, I mean, that's a pretty strong, and I wouldn't say it's a very unpleasant thing to say. It could have been a little more sweeter though. But I think I don't know. I don't think that these people will be getting along anytime soon.
I feel like Lando has moved up to a stage where he's got to really prove something. It's his third season in Formula One now. And, he's really looking to be he's not looking to be the Bottas of the team, in short. He's looking to really make his mark. So he's taking advantage of the fact that, Ricciardo is a little bit new. And I feel like he's pushing even more than he was earlier. With Carlos, I felt like he had such a high level of competition that they both had to keep pushing each other. But I feel Lando is just at it to really make a gap between himself and Ricciardo. And he's doing pretty great at it. Still, Ricciardo has got the upper edge in qualies. 3:1 is the ratio, of Ricciardo beating him in quali. So
Ricciardo is getting very comfortable with the car now.
That is true.
Because Ricciardo, I know statement when Ricciardo said that it's a peculiar car to drive because he was braking in pretty early at the braking zones.
Okay.
So he was braking in pretty early, and so throughout the FP1, he was being nursed by his race engineer. That's where you're braking, and so he's getting used to that car, and that's a great thing.
Yeah.
And he had a great start in Spanish GP.
Someone who's got really used to that car really quick, I feel, is Carlos, dude. He's really picked it up at Ferrari, and he made a comment on the radio the previous race saying that it was really different, but I've changed my style of driving, and I think he's doing pretty good. He's consistently being on Leclerc's ass in short.
And that and more are what we're going to discuss in this stream. So today we're talking about a little wrap up of the Spanish GP, the one where we saw Mercedes outplay and outthink Red Bull rather than Hamilton beat Verstappen. I think it was down to strategy, and we're also going to be talking about what a race weekend is, what the format is, and generally Jamie's here. He's probably going to take us through what all of that is. Sid has some questions about tire allocation. So if you guys are interested in tire allocation and things like that, this is where you should be. Oh man, that's really tough to say and make it sound interesting.
Guys, tire allocation is the real shit, guys.
Yeah, it is. It is for people who really are into that stuff. So hit the like button, guys, and we will get more viewers going. Yes, smash it, like hit it. Tell your friends also to go and just like the stream, and tell your friends that we're streaming. So yeah, let's get right into it. Spanish GP, we saw qualifying, we saw the race, and we saw Hamilton and Mercedes just like outthink Red Bull. Jamie, I'll go to you first on this one. What do you think of
100%.
their strategy?
I mean, Spanish Grand Prix is actually the one of the most boring races there is on the calendar, and it's mostly because they complete the pre-season testing, which is where they get to try out their cars on that particular track. Now they've gone around that track so many times that they basically know it, and they, there's already so much data collected that it's just your position when you begin the race is the most important, because that's just how it's going to be throughout the race. And frankly, so the only real battle that we did see was between Verstappen and Hamilton. Really, the rest of the race seemed a little bit dead, apart from literally 10th place, which was being fought by over four drivers. And, I'd love to see such a battle where four drivers fight for the last position, which is the last point that you get for P1 instead of P10. So it wasn't the greatest race weekend, I'd say. Still, Hamilton came out of it saying he learned a lot about the Red Bull car and Max as a driver in the interview, which seemed to like stun Max a little. Like, what did he learn? And that was pretty interesting to see. Maybe I don't think that Red Bull really even thought that Mercedes was on that strategy and that was their game plan, and it's pretty much what messed them over.
Thought?
I think Hamilton learned something. There's been a development that the rear flap of the vehicle, like the rearmost part.
Correct.
So that during the turns or that during the DRS zone used to protrude out a little.
Okay.
That Hamilton observed, like he's like, yes, this is happening. They went to the race control and they have been and Red Bull has been told to take it off.
Oh, okay.
So I'm in awe of Hamilton totally. Like this guy. Apart from
imagine during a race, like
during the race, he's not only chasing the car. Okay, he's looking at everything, every little minute detail. I mean, like, hats off to this guy. I mean, this guy is like if like literally unbeatable. Like,
honestly, yeah. I mean, he's been at Mercedes
So
since
good,
probably so
right?
long that he's developed so many things for them, learned so many new things. For sure, he's one of the greatest there is.
like
And James, you said that there was no battle for any position except Max.
Dhaval, I think you went.
Yeah, I think you got cut off a little.
Yeah. Now you're back.
Yeah. No, there was also a battle between Max and Lewis and Valtteri Bottas for the second position.
I mean,
Always, Valtteri was told to let Lewis pass, and he didn't.
Yeah. James, your
he
opinion.
had a fair explanation where it was because if he was not to push, he would get Leclerc, who was at the time behind him. Leclerc would again be in his pit window, which would mean that Valtteri, once he pit and came out, Leclerc would be ahead of him. So he had to really keep up with the pace. Still, I felt like by doing that, he's really put his job on the line for next year. We have enough drivers that to take up his seat. There's Ocon, who's been here since a while, who's been really performing well in the Alpine. And now we've also got Russell, who's just really outdoing what he has, the machinery he has. So I think he's risking his seat by doing such stuff. And more honestly, I think it was a little bit of an ego issue at that moment. It was not to do with his pit window. I'm pretty sure him being in a Mercedes, he shouldn't have actually had Leclerc in his pit window in the first place. So
exactly.
Definitely a lot to look at over there.
So what about I wanted to know your opinion on Gasly's drive after that 5-second penalty. I mean, I would call that a great drive. What are your opinion on Jamie?
Pretty good. Firstly, it was quite a sad weekend for his team overall because his teammate, of course, DNF, did not finish the race. He, however, he fell back to, I think, 14th or 16th. He fought back all the way to P10, and he could have been P9, provided he didn't have the penalty. He finished less than half a second behind P9, which was again Ocon. So there are no would-haves, could-haves, should-haves in motorsport, but could have had a better weekend. Still a very strong end.
Like it was not at the penalty also. He stopped, like his car crossed that line, that
Correct.
starting grid line, and that was not in his control also. Come on, I mean, like it happens. It
Sorry,
happens.
That is
No,
that
it
is
does
that is
not
your
happen.
fault. I mean, you are the one driving the car. So
Exactly.
Okay. So I
like-
thought like from a guy who doesn't know driving. So I thought, but it is totally in their control. Jimmy, what
Yes,
you meant to
absolutely.
say?
So they basically do a formation lap, which is in short done to heat up the tires. And once they line up on the grid, they have a margin. So there is a yellow line that you'll see and a white line. So they can actually stop a little before the white line, the grid mark actually begins. And you'll see one of the previous races in maybe 2019, Vettel has jumped the start, but he's not crossed the line crucially. So he didn't get a penalty, and he later got a terrible start because he jumped, braked, and then went. But still, he did not cross the line. Now, in the case of Gasly, he's not really jumped the start. He's positioned his car ahead of the white line. So
Okay.
to be a gap
So
of
they can't tell him what पहले के थोड़ा reverse कर ले और थोड़ा
हाँ
bend
यार,
ले.
हाँ ये तो
ऐसा
होना
मतलब
चाहिए.
everyone know this is ridiculous. So the poor guy can't see beyond his visor, and you're expecting him to know that my front wing is 1 millimeter over the line or whatever.
Seriously, but they have such the visor of the helmet is actually this narrow, literally, and the mirrors are even like narrower. You can barely see out that car. They literally drive based on what they believe is next. So some corners which go uphill, they literally cannot see beyond that. They just see sky. That's how how much focus they need to have and how much trust they need to have in the car. That there's no accident up ahead.
And
Yeah.
that's the reason race engineers keep feeding them data that like 1.9, 1.2 behind you, and
Correct. They actually have even display lights, these LED little lights on their wheel. So there was a video made recently explaining how the marshalling system works, and they were explaining how within 2 tenths or something, when Russell hit or collided with Bottas, there were instantly yellow lights on Raikkonen's wheel, because if you remember, Raikkonen was right behind him. He's literally the cameraman of all these crashes, always behind,
Always.
recording everything. So it instantly came up on his wheel. That's how quick these things work. Yeah.
Always.
that's great.
Yeah. So
So,
let's also talk about, while we're talking about the race, let's also talk about what a race weekend is. And I want to do this I want to mix it with the Spanish GP, because I want to understand why Verstappen didn't go for a two-stop strategy and why Mercedes did. So we'll start from the beginning. There's obviously free practice on
Correct.
Friday. There's qualifying on Saturday, and there's the race day on Sunday. So, like, what are each of these things, and how does tire allocation actually work? Can they use the tires they used in practice for the race, or what? How is it work?
So
Let's start with free practice.
understood. So very interesting fact I'll actually start with is just in qualifying, just a little, trivia sort of thing. The first type of qualifying that was actually introduced was even before the Formula One World Championship was created. So back when the championship itself didn't exist, but the races did, the system of qualifying was you would have to pick a straw. The longer your straw, the further ahead you start your race. So, we've come that far. So imagine if Latifi or Mazepin picked up the longest straw and they're on pole or something.
I mean, but back then it was like you said, like some royalty and all were racing. No,
Seriously, yeah, it was a whole different scene.
Them a short straw. Like, imagine a prince is walking and some random driver is walking. Everybody is like, "Hey, prince, you just you go to P1, man. Like, just go."
ये क्या फालतूगिरी है? ऐसे मार रहा है उसको. वो जीता तो ही मार रहा है. कलिसा चला है इतना अच्छा तू.
So, coming back to free practice, you've actually got 3 free practices, and in Formula One for this season, they've made the practice sessions 60 minutes long each. So on Friday, you have 2 sessions, and on Saturday before quali, you have another session, which is in short your last session before you move into free practice, before you move into qualifying. So free practice isn't actually to tell drivers about, how the track is. Like, it's not like they learn the track right there. They have a whole bunch of simulator time beforehand, even if it's a brand new track. The only thing they actually work on is how the car feels through the corners, they work on different modes in the different practice sessions they get. Some of them go for, like qualifying runs where they check the qualifying pace of the car, whereas the others go for, full race length runs where they can see, how much fuel the car consumes or how well the tires operate on the track, the amount of time it would take to generate heat into the tires. Because in short, when the tires work the best, they have to have a certain amount of heat in them to even, get grip and stick to the tarmac. So in practice, you're usually on to developing the best setup for your qualifying and your race, rather than actually giving the drivers experience about the track. Apart from in like one-off occasions where you'd see Nico Hulkenberg randomly step in and, come in one qualifying session before the one practice session before quali or things like that. That's when the drivers actually, have to learn the track. So it also involves sometimes you have reserve drivers, which are basically junior drivers or, second drivers who step in for you in case there's a driver who's been injured who cannot compete. A second driver steps in to fill in his spot. And in order to give these drivers enough practice, maybe for the future or even just to develop the car for the team, they call on guys who are allowed to do the
like
first.
Roy Nissany for Williams and
Absolutely.
Callum Ilott for Alfa Romeo.
Correct.
Like
correct.
normally
Even,
FP1 they do FP1 if I'm not
correct. You're only allowed to actually do the first three practice. Second and third one, I don't think you're permitted to have a reserve junior. So we even saw Robert Kubica. I don't think he's at all going to step into a Formula One car. But the only reason why he was there was because he's got so much experience in his 1.5 hands that what do you call? He's able to develop certain parts of the cars that the drivers might not be able to do so well because of his experience.
He has been quite instrumental with Williams also, right? Like
He's
developing the
literally
car
been
throughout the
part of
years.
so many teams like him, Kvyat, Hulkenberg. These guys just like they're all over the grid. I mean, good for them in
They're
a
like
way.
half race engineers almost.
yeah. Robert Kubica.
Some
Now,
comments.
he's driving for Le Mans now, or he's into.
If I'm not mistaken, he is he was doing endurance racing. I'm not sure what he's
Okay.
on now, but endurance racing, rally racing was his thing. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Some comments coming in for you, Jimmy. Advait asking, where did you get your Seb merch? Sid also asked him this question. Where
Oh, the
did you-
t-shirt. All right. So head over to my Instagram, click on the link in my bio. You will get the shop that sells the merchandise. And if you all would like a discount code, use Shaw15 and you can avail a discount code.
Fashion influencer
Nice.
Jamie Shaw.
This my Instagram, sorry, I didn't mention it, is Jamie Shaw Racing. That's JAMIESHAW.
Yes, it's there in the description, guys. The link is there in the description. Go follow both of these guys, Sid and Jamie. They're doing some cool stuff everywhere. Another comment, Mark is saying your room is looking good. I'm assuming he's talking to you because his last name is Shaw.
He's my brother.
So, he's your brother. Damn good. Is he just
It's so cute.
Next.
That's amazing. On that note, like the stream, guys. So yeah, Sid,
Yeah.
what
so
did you think of Lando this race?
Lando, I would say he was totally outgunned by Daniel in the first place, and
Would you say
that
Daniel was the driver today?
yeah, like I think it won't be easy because see, if you go to see Red Bull haven't had like a driver to match Daniel's caliber since he has left. That is a fact. Daniel is a great driver because even
Daniel
with Renault,
has not been as good as he was at Red Bull since he's left.
because he's never gotten a car that will see Renault. Also, the second season he was really good with Renault. McLaren, he's looking good. So that guy has the ability to adapt to things really fast. And McLaren, he said that it's a peculiar car to drive. It's not something that I've driven in years. And it's like this guy going back to his basics. And that's a good thing.
Seriously, completely agreed.
So,
I mean, he looks really strong, I would say, even though his results aren't showing that. I feel like he's been more serious. He's more serious now than he was before because, of course, new machinery, a very competitive teammate. and of course he's got to prove that he's worth it. McLaren might have been a few years ago not the best team, literally ninth in 2018, but they finished third last year. So there
Yeah.
are going to be a lot of people fighting for his seat. So very crucial for him to show his worth. Although I think he's a brilliant driver in all aspects when it
Even
comes
in
to managing race
yeah,
strategy to like holding position. He's just brilliant.
even in Portugal, I think he started what 18th, 13th.
Yeah, 17th or so, and he fought back all the way up to P9.
He was up in points, and that shows the pedigree of a driver. And Jimmy, I had one question. This is regarding. This is too early to say. It's too early to say. Keeping our fingers crossed. Like Mick Schumacher, last race we saw him cross a couple of cars, starting of the race, and he was defending well against Williams.
Yes.
So you think he's starting to show his form, like he's the one that is promised to all of us, like.
So
is this some prophecy in Formula One, or is this just
ऐसे खुद का prophecy
Michael Schumacher stand over here?
So if we look back to his Formula 2 season, we get a bigger picture. We see his first season in Formula 2, he wasn't at the top of his game, or he wasn't really used to everything going on. But in the second season, more towards the end, he was just brilliant. So, I would feel the same about this season. And it's the same with actually every driver, they start progressing and they keep moving up. Maybe not for his teammate, but for him, I would say that we could really maybe see, like, I don't think they'd be Q2 in any of the race weekends unless something really freaky happens with the weather or whatever. But he could really finish high up. He was challenging Latifi, who's in I would say a Williams is this time a slightly better car than the Haas. Latifi it's also his second season. So, it should really mean that Mick's being able to push what he has. So if he was to, let's say, get an upgrade to maybe Alfa Romeo, he might just show us a lot more about what he has with him.
Yeah, so that's what. So my question in addition to that is that has with the required updates in 2022, if we still have the team in Formula One, to be precise, and Mick still being in that team, would that do any good to him?
Certainly, I mean, definitely he's gonna eventually, just like Lando, for instance, Lando joined McLaren, and McLaren was a strong team when Lando did join, though. He was, he was a rookie, but he was still able to somewhat push. And over the years, we've seen how much he's improved. So it's going to be the same with Schumacher, where this year it's his first year, he gets to make mistakes, whatever. He's a rookie. They're not even paying attention to where they finish. So he's got like less pressure, I would say, than another person. He's got no pressure for his seat being taken away at all, I would say. I would say that he's probably going to get an upgrade to Alfa Romeo. I don't think Kimi is going to stay on after the end of this year, or maybe just one more year and Kimi be out. But I could really see Schumacher take that spot. So I would definitely say he's going to get some points in the bag next year, not this year.
Because if you go to see both the drivers, like, they are comparing Mick to, if you compare Mick to Michael, I mean, again, it's a wrong comparison to do. But in terms of temperament, see, Michael Schumacher as a person was always a dominating personality. The way he used to talk to his race engineers, he had an air, or he had an image around him that, this is what I feel about the car. Mick, the other hand, is someone who listens to his race engineer a lot. And this guy is someone who's very level-headed. For someone who's come from a royalty, he's a very level-headed
yes,
person.
I would think so too. I would still think that Mick is, it's maybe really soon to say, but I can't see the same energy in Mick that his father had when he first came on the grid. Like when his dad was there for Benetton in his, I think his first full championship, he really showed what he was made of. I don't think we're going to see the same with Mick, especially because in the era he's born in, where you've got like Hamilton's
The
and
cars
those
are different. The cars are different, and
very different,
There is
and
so
he's
much
not.
difference between each of the vehicles. No, that didn't exist as much back then, right?
Yeah,
When
back
Michael Schumacher was
then,
racing,
yeah,
of course there were some cars were faster than the others, but the gap wasn't so much.
back then you'd have like 4 people, even 5 people competing for P1 or P2 max,
Yeah.
Now we don't see much of that. So definitely agree with that. We've seen like cars, they've just become so far apart, the gap, which is why, the FI is actually trying to involve things like the budget cap and, cutting off certain aero features, which cut off advantages of certain cars. I mean, Aston Martin wouldn't have ever imagined they'd be this bad into the season because of like a few aero changes that the FI decided to make. But because of that, they've gone from being probably a team that should have had a car that was able to reach them up to P3, they're now down in about P7 or P6. So definitely, I like these changes and adjustments that the FI are making. The whole point is to get the field closer.
Gunther has been saying they will be coming into Monaco with some updates. I don't know what updates.
Who is saying that?
Haas is coming into Monaco with some updates.
Yeah, they'll make their car waterproof because we know what Mazepin's gonna do with the car. So.
They should be doing it.
Krishna is saying if Mick keeps up his great form, there is a risk of Sainz to lose his seat at Ferrari. Bit too early for that.
Way too early for
bit
that.
Too early
Sainz
for that.
got so much
Way
experience.
too early
That's
for that.
quite a statement, like a bold statement you're making there, man.
Even Sainz comes from a racing royalty.
This is from chat.
Yeah. I'm speaking from the guy who comments.
Yeah.
It's too early to say.
Aditya saying, will Haas next season come back fighting? Haas next season. Abhi to ye season to wo log ko they have to mollycoddle Mick a little bit. No, like give them some time. If they have time from like taking care of Mick, they'll focus on updating their car and all. But yeah, there's going to be some changes in regulations from next year.
True.
So we don't know what is going to happen to all the teams. Might like there could be a rebalance, or maybe Mercedes with all that much more money will still figure out how to be the best in spite of all of these regulations, which they say have been designed to make them slower. Okay, Mercedes has claimed that all of these new regulations have been designed with an intention to make Mercedes slower. Now I don't know how true that is.
It's a pretty, I don't know what to make of that statement. Also, they're bragging also at the same time. Like you're so good, that the whole. I mean,
one thing that I really notice is that Mercedes has made the most progress over the years because of how innovative they've been. For instance, last season we saw the DAS, which was basically the front wheels. They could literally pull the steering wheel and the front wheels would basically turn in, which is called toe in. So on a straight, you'd like to have your front wheels slightly angled inwards because it gives you more speed. And through corners, you'd like them to be slightly outwards because it gives you more grip going through the corner. So, again, once they invented that, instantly there was a complaint, and for the next season, it was banned. So I think although teams, although they are getting teams closer and closer by, putting certain restrictions, they shouldn't actually be doing that because you're somewhat reducing the progress that these teams and the cars are going to make.
Exactly.
So not such a great step by banning it. They could have maybe restricted certain things, but not removed the element out of the sport completely. So, yeah.
Okay. So there's some insane chat going on. Riansh is saying Monte Carlo homeowners are adding extra protection for Mazepin.
Yeah.
So let's move to qualifying now. We've spoken about free practice. My question before we get into qualifying and you guys take over is this: why are cars faster in qualifying than they are in races?
Yeah.
So do you want to go for that or?
No. Jamie.
Okay. So what they do in qualifying is they have something known as the Parc Fermé rules, which comes into play after your practice. So once these rules come into play, they last till the end of the race weekend. What this means is you can only make certain adjustments to the car itself. So things like your front wing, fuel and tires, are things you can change even after parc fermé comes into play. When I say front wing, I mean if you damage it, you can replace it. So uh, when so in qualifying, in short, when they go for the runs, they do not have to carry as much fuel as they would during the race. Even when these cars have pit stops during the race, they don't stop for fuel. Now, fueling of these cars is banned since maybe 2010 or so. So because
Little
fueling
fire hazard, that's why, or ऐसे ही?
there were a lot of issues. I mean, you'd have a whole bunch of fires. Sometimes they would tell the driver to leave without actually removing the pump. So he would literally carry on, and he would absolutely pull off the entire pipe with him. And there'd be huge fires everywhere in the pit lane. So too many problems. Although
Jesus.
it used to create quite an intense battle, not knowing how much fuel is being pumped in which car. You wouldn't know when they would have to pit, how much fuel conserving they would have to do. And of course, more weight, which means more fuel, of course, reduces, increases your tire wear. So, fueling of cars was a really cool element, but no longer there. So coming back to why these cars are lighter, I mean, they go faster in quali, is because they are set up to have a limited amount of fuel. They go for an out lap, which is when they exit the pitch, they take a whole turn, and then they go for their fast lap, which is when they set a quali time. And then they finish that lap, and then they have something called an in lap, which is when they bring the car back to the pits. So they just need enough fuel to run for these 3 laps. Of course, they have to ensure the car weighs a certain amount because as per FIA regulations, your car plus your seat and your body needs to weigh a certain amount. So these cars are really light because in short, they just have to do one timed lap. So they put minimum fuel. 10 kilos of fuel adds about 3/10 of a second. And 1 lap worth of fuel is about a tenth and a half. So if you're adding, let's say 2 laps extra, that's 3/10 just added to your car for no reason. 3/10 as in 3/10 of a second that you would have added to your time when you took a lap. So they have to be as light as possible. And that's why they run much faster than they do in
because what happened in the Spanish GP, Sunoda in his lap that you approach before the flying lap, as JB told us, the flying lap where actually you have your car running at a certain speed. You're supposed to go slow, supposed to go a little slow so that you don't consume the amount of fuel that is there. So he went a little fast, and that ended up him not being in.
Okay, quite interesting actually. I was not aware of that. So nice.
So
is that his fault or is race engineer's fault?
That is totally Sunoda's fault. That's totally Sunoda's fault.
Hey, wait. James, is it ever a driver's fault?
Yes, many of the time.
Oh, look at that.
A lot of
we have an honest driver here.
Yeah.
So he couldn't get into Q2 because of that, and because a lot of these drivers, because now it makes sense because Q3 में Spanish GP में Perez went a little wide, okay, and I think he spun. So he had only one flying lap to get his time in and get a good position, and he ended up on P7 or P8. So limited amount of fuel is that is the whole game. And what about the tire allocations in the quali?
Right. So this is where it gets a little bit complex, but in short, all right, the way qualifying works is it's broken up into 3 parts. You've got Q1, Q2, Q3. So this season, we've got 20 cars, 10 teams, 2 cars each team. And at the end of Q1, which is basically after the 18 minutes of the session are over, these cars can go out in whichever order, whichever tire compound they would like to select. And they set lap times. And at the end of Q1, the slowest 5 drivers get eliminated. Now, when you enter Q2, the tire that you manage to set your lap time with, that will push you up to Q3. Basically, in Q2, you've got now 15 drivers. Out of 15, only the top 10 make it to Q3. So because only the top 10 make it to Q3, the bottom 5 get eliminated. Now, the top 10 that do make it to Q3, whichever tire compound, that exact set that they used to move from Q2 to Q3, they will have to start their race with that exact set. So it's a little confusing, but in short, whichever tire compound you use to set a lap time that pushes you up into Q3, ensures you're in the top 10, that is the exact set of tire you start your race with. So you'll see the top start with an older set or an older tire that they've used in quali, and the people, let's say 11th and below, have a fresh set of tires to choose from and have a tire option. So they can opt between the 3 tire compounds that are allotted to them each weekend. They can choose and they could have a better strategy overall. So, sometimes finishing P11 instead of P10 actually has a
Might be
great
better.
because you've got
Yeah.
free tire choice. And,
This is rather an advantage. This is a disadvantage, a big disadvantage, I feel.
it is to some extent. And that's
Yeah.
the whole point, so that the back of the field can catch up to the front. That is why,
Easily.
yeah,
If someone
that's why.
starts on,
Definitely. That's why even in, I think
then
in
switches on to medium or hard.
you'll see Vettel started P10 and we all were happy that he got to Q3, but the poor guy just fell behind. He finished P14 on the last lap, taking Stroll for P13. So, and we saw Russell, who was, he had quite a good run initially, I think. He was P11. So, gave him a better option with the tire choice. And of course, Q3, which is the final stage of qualifying, is where there is a complete shootout for who can get the fastest lap. They're actually allotted one more set of tires, which is the soft set, which is the fastest set. So the way tires work is you've got soft, mediums, hard. The softer the tire, the faster it goes, but the shorter amount of time it lasts. So the hards would last the longest, the shorts would last the softs would last the shortest, but it would be the fastest.
That's true, man. In tires also.
Yeah. Because
So,
because I think, as Jamie said, I think 11th and 12th position is the sweetest spot.
It
to
is
be in,
to
like,
some extent, yes.
Yeah, it's the sweetest spot. And if you're in a track like the one in Spain, or you're in Spa, where you can overtake easily, you can always come from back up the back, and you can
sure.
kind of
Basically when the start line where you're basically set on the grid to where your first turn is, if you've got a long run, you've got quite a big advantage being in 11th or even 12th, because you might have fresh tires that you've opted to start on. So places like Russia, where Sochi, where you've got like a 1 kilometer long stretch to the first corner, that's a huge advantage you have right there.
So I wanted to ask, but again in a track like Monaco, Monaco, it's a disadvantage because there's so much amount of overtaking that you can do, because it's again overtaking is not that conducive in Monaco.
Absolutely.
Monaco mein kahan se overtaking? Yaar, barely one car can fit on the track. Where are you going to overtake over there?
Monaco is basically a Formula E track. That's what it is. Formula E tracks are like the narrowest. It's like Smash. You've been to Smash Formula Mills. It's literally like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's quite interesting. Strategy is what that all comes down to, which is where you got tires that matter the most. So now, if you've understood a little bit about tires, you guys would, really be able to enjoy Monaco, knowing the strategies and things like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
on that note, hit the like button, guys. Smash
yes,
it.
guys,
That's
hit
what
it.
people
How many viewers we have as of now?
We have more likes. We have more viewers than likes, so that should not happen. So let's get that up. Let's get those numbers up. And Shrishti has been nice enough. Our moderator has been nice enough to put that T-shirt link in the chat. So if you guys want to check
thank
out,
you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that link from earlier that Jamie was talking about, you can go check it out. It's up there in the chat.
If you can add the discount code, so these guys could.
Yeah, the discount code is Shaw15. Is it Shaw15? Yes.
Shaw
so you guys use Shaw15 as
Shaw and the number 15.
Yeah. So
because this F1, there's one website called F1 Authentics.
Okay.
And it is so expensive. Okay, I'm gonna tell you. They had a night lamp. Okay, it has a night lamp, and the parts are made from Pastor Maldonado and Roman Grosjean's car, Lotus car. I'm like, why would I have a night lamp?
That lamp will break the moment you bring it out of the pack.
Yeah.
You'll go to your other lamp in the house and just crash against it. It'll be like, "Maine nahi kiya."
So it is costing around 900 euros. I'm like, why would I pay 900 euros for this shit?
I would rather stay in the dark.
Yeah, exactly. Talking about Roman Grosjean has been doing really well. Got a pole in IndyCar, ended second.
Yeah, that's
Started P1 and ended second is
हाँ
for
थोड़ा
Grosjean. It's good, you know. Been a while since he's been on
तो
the
he
podium
finished
and
the race,
everything.
no? तो वही तो बहुत बड़ा बात है. Like
he's
Yeah.
a good driver. मुझे ऐसा क्यों
He is.
लगता है कि ग्रोजा को थोड़ा ट्रैक लोटस में अच्छा चलाया था उसने. He's a good driver. मतलब थोड़ा है तो भी क्या कर सकते हैं, like
yeah.
a little
Speaking
bit.
of good drivers, lots of questions coming in about Perez. So let's just take those.
Yeah.
I'll start with so people are talking about this why Red Bull and their machinery and their engine is going to be really good, but engine regulations are coming in. Sorry, the Red Bull is coming out with this engine like in 2025. Is that correct?
Yeah, 2025, 2026 is
So
what they
there's still
mean.
some time. Utkarsh is saying Perez is massively underperforming, and that's the reason why Mercedes are manhandling Red Bull with any strategy they want. Do you think this is true? Is Perez underperforming this season?
So I'll give you an interesting stat comparing, second drivers of the team. Let's take Bottas and Lewis as an example. Now, we all, including me, all right, throw a lot of shade at Bottas for where he finishes in the race.
No, what do you say? No,
Yeah,
no,
dude.
nobody does that. Who does that? Who does
See, we love Bottas.
कौन?
We absolutely love Bottas.
कौन किया? देख मैं उसको मारेगा. बोल कौन है? कौन है?
So,
हाँ?
We absolutely love Bottas, man. Like,
basically, I just wanted to compare, how I would say Albon, Gasly, even Kvyat at one point,
Kvyat, yeah.
and you even got now Perez. Four of these guys have been teamed up with Max, and I just wanted to just identify, like, these guys have been the second driver of the team. They've performed quite badly, all right, as the second driver of the team. Now, I just want you to look at Mercedes with Hamilton and Bottas. And I just wanted to show that, although Bottas is the second driver, just like Perez is, he's still managing to beat Hamilton in quali at times, beat Hamilton like properly in free practice. And sometimes even in the race, he just gets a little bit of an edge over Hamilton. Now, so second drivers, right? It's really hard for them to make much of things at times because your team, in short, wants to win the constructors and go home. And when they look at the constructors, they look at what gets them the most points. So when they see that we've got one driver that could possibly finish higher, they're obviously going to maybe ask the other driver who's holding them up to let them by. So Mercedes could have had a 2 and 3 this weekend with Bottas being second or Hamilton being second and Bottas being third. But a 1-3 would obviously be much better. The biggest problem now that Verstappen is facing is that he's a one-man show at the moment. He's not got a sidekick to really, push in the way of the Mercedes. So the Mercs can really, they do to some extent manage to push around the Verstappen and Red Bull as a whole because they've just got an upper hand, right? Imagine having two cars versus one. It's as simple as that. So definitely, I would say that, yeah, you are right to some extent where the Mercs, they do outwit Red Bull just because they're two of them versus one. But maybe we'll see Perez fight back soon. He's a brilliant driver, so something seems off, right? We've seen how he has been in like cars which have performed worse than the one he's in. So something might come up, and we'll see what's he on about.
Is it about the team environment as a whole, that the team environment, because it's let us not talk about Perez, let us talk about the whole Red Bull team, junior team program also. Like last year, Sonoda and Daruwala were in the same team. They were trying for Carlin. They were part of the Red Bull junior program, and Daruwala was not given the same machinery as Sonoda. He was given a slower car. That is, and the engine was downgraded a little. I mean, he got an upgrade in the later part of the race,
and then he just went off. Correct.
He went off. So I think that the whole I think the whole thought process, where they want to focus their resources around one driver. I think that is where they are going wrong. like when you have someone like Perez who comes in with so much amount of experience, who can help you in your engine development also, because he's been in the game for a while. He's seen so many teams, he's been with so many teams, who know who knows around his tires so well. One of the greatest, he's a legend in terms of tire management. So he can give you so much of input. I think somewhere down the line, it has to do with the toxic culture, because the way Ricardo left was also not very pleasant. I just wanted to have your opinion on this.
Yeah.
And Ricardo was one of their like long-term projects, no, that they just abandoned when Max came in.
I feel like Ricardo, the team didn't want Ricardo to leave, although they were making life difficult for him. He practically left because he was no longer the number one guy in the team. He didn't want to play the second man's role. And I think he noticed that and he just wanted to be number one because, he is I would say he's a winning driver. He's a driver that can get you, onto the podium, certainly. I just felt like there's a lot that goes on that is not really shown in the career of a driver in any category of motorsport, which is the mental side. And as you said, the environment. There's a lot that goes on that affects your performance when you're not surrounded by the right things. So even when you might have the best machinery, you might be performing shittier than your teammate, let's say, because of what you might be going through with the team. So I think we can see that with Bottas. We can see that how much pressure he's really put into and how much, sort of hate he's shown at times. It really, really affects you. So coming back to Perez and him being a great driver, him not getting preference, I would say they have to give the preference to Max firstly because Max is on a really long contract, and also because he's young. It's as simple as that. He's coming to a point where he's getting enough experience. He's been in the sport since he was literally 17 years old, and he's now 23 or so. So he's got a good amount of experience under his belt, although he is still pretty aggressive. We saw the move he made into going into the first corner of the last race, and I think
razor blade elbows they called it.
Yeah, I mean that was really close. If Hamilton didn't move, then we would have seen another 2015 Spanish Grand Prix.
You would have seen another Imola. Do you think Imola post race?
Oh, I mean, they touched over there. That was as bad as it could get. But luckily, Hamilton managed to get his car going and didn't get enough damage to retire. So good for him.
Like even when Vettel was there, I mean, I can't quite place his name. Who was Vettel's teammate?
Mark Webber and Daniel Ricciardo.
Mark Webber had a lot of issues then.
Solid. I mean, just Verstappen. I mean, not Verstappen. Vettel was literally the most aggressive guy. So Max is what Vettel was, honestly speaking. And at the time, Vettel had like one of the most powerful cars of that era, which is why he just took off, And Max right now, I feel like if you gave him quite a more powerful car, he would take off too. That's my opinion. And I see the same, same fire.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping, even in his post-race interviews, he's just so open, which might be bad for him on a relationship basis, but he's literally just openly said the car is too slow. I can't do anything more. I'm doing my best.
He's always been outspoken. I'll send you guys a video after we are done with this. There's a video where Max as a kid, okay, it's a go-karting race, and he's like, he threw me out of the track.
That was Leclerc. So he basically had a very tiny bump with Leclerc. He went off track. Leclerc took the win. And he's arguing and things like that. And they asked Leclerc, he's like, that was just a racing incident.
Yeah, and they're kids, okay? So you can understand from where Max comes from. He's always been that cranky kid, Arey meko mara, mujhe dhakka diya, mujhe tapli mara. I'm like, even that incident with Ocon, that was very aggressive. It was not needed for him to. He literally went and manhandled Ocon. And
there is a word for it. There is a word in like Hindi and Gujarati and all of it for it. It's called Rotlu. Okay, Max is a big ass Rotlu. वो हर चीज में बोले मेरे साथ correct नहीं.
Speaking about Max and Daniel, do you
Oh,
remember
yeah.
Azerbaijan? Where he just,
Yeah.
the number of swerves he made, that was totally, I would say, his fault, shouldn't have done that.
And when he couldn't finish the race in Monaco, when Daniel won, this guy was not really in high spirits. Like literally,
Yeah.
I don't know if Netflix sensationalized it or not. Like
Of course
literally,
they did.
they,
Netflix is just like there to take videos
Yeah.
and edit them in a way where they look much worse than it
they are
really
the
was.
Balaji telefilms of the Formula One world now. Like there was a shot where Christian Horner is telling Max that come on, cheer up, your teammate has won. I'm like that is so wrong. I mean, why did Red Bull not tell that, guys, edit this? This doesn't paint a good picture about the team. Like team
But
principal
Netflix is not Red Bull does not have creative rights over here. No.
हाँ मतलब तो थोड़ा तो बोल
Editing
सकते थे
is with
प्लीज
somebody
यार ये
else.
काट दो यार ये तो काट ही दो.
That they would have
Uh,
probably shown that also in the Netflix documentary.
I feel half of the people do has because of Drive to Survive. Because
Yeah, 100%.
Gunther
Steiner
Steiner
has made
acted
a
really well.
reputation for himself. I feel like Steiner could be sponsored. Like I think if there was a company who would choose who would get like a sponsor logo on his t-shirt or shirt as they walked around, I don't think Mazepin would get it. I literally think that Steiner would get it. He's so popular,
Yeah.
dude. The number of
So popular.
things being made on him, even memes and all. I mean, Mazepin's got the most memes made of him, but for the wrong reasons. So
yeah.
So now there's a meme where Mazepin is telling I'm sorry and about So they have super infused Steiner's voice is like enough, shut up, enough. This is good.
I have now since we're on this topic, I want you guys to comment on what happened last race with Toto Wolff talking to FIA about the blue flags for Mazepin when Hamilton was towards the end of the race. Firstly, Toto Wolff talking to FIA, we know what happens.
that's a brilliant feature, man. I love that. I want to see
that
so much
added
more.
feature, like this has never been broadcasted before,
not
right?
done before.
Race,
No.
The engineers and all talking to race
Yeah,
control.
we've not seen that before.
We've never been privy to this. So
Yeah.
what do you guys think of Bottas next seat next year? Is Rajat is asking this. See, there is a lot of nobody knows whether Bottas is going to even be around in F1 next year, because I think if he loses his Mercedes seat, definitely some other team will pick them up.
He's already sold his car.
Yeah. Oh, that's the best part.
He's buying a
sold his
Baleno,
Mercedes
Maruti Baleno.
AMG.
Seriously? Buying a Baleno?
Yeah. No, I'm kidding, dude.
I know.
He sold his Mercedes AMG, and the condition is whoever buys it will get a personal delivery from him, and they will get to go to Bottas's personal racing. What do you say? Racetrack and race. Yeah, karting track, and get to race on that track. I don't know if with him or
imagine
just
he loses over there.
Oh God! Imagine if Lewis buys his car.
He'll be like,
and then they go karting together. And then Lewis.
Stephen style. He knows, I will not sell it to Lewis. So Lewis has some proxy who bids for him. And then at the time of delivery, Bottas is all nice. Oh, somebody's going to come take delivery. And Lewis shows up. He is so annoyed. Bottas ke birthday pe Hamilton cake kaatega. MG is saying, yeah, man, that's essentially what happens. Bottas ke birthday pe usko cake nahi dete. Hamilton alag room mein cake kaatta hai.
ये मेरा joke है, by the way, guys. I made a reel out of this. I made a reel where I have superimposed Bottas's face on my face on Snapchat. I made a joke on this that birthday मेरा होता है, cake वो काटता है.
उसको फिर आके दूसरे रूम में एक पीस देके जाता है कि तेरा हैप्पी बर्थडे है, तू केक खा ले.
केक खा ले तू थोड़ा. Then there was one एक मैं वीडियो देखा था उसमें Bottas like like Bottas is one, ठीक है. So they are showing Toto Wolff is banging the furniture. Yeah, oh my God, why? I'm like, that's so bad.
It's quite bad. Even when he finishes on the podium and they just don't care. Like one guy comes and pats his back.
I find these podium celebrations extremely awkward, okay? Because none of these guys like each other. At the end of the race, those top three don't like each other. But they have to celebrate with each other.
Yeah.
And the worst part is if 1-2 is Mercedes and the third guy is somebody else, that third guy is just so alone. Like Mercedes 1-2, so Toto Wolff is also there.
Yeah.
These two are there, and this third guy is just like spraying champagne at everybody. Like, मैं क्या करूँ?
Third guy's team is the most excited actually. If you go to see, na, they're like as if they have run the race. Like third guy's team are they are the most excited. They're like, chalo, it's like see, these people are proxy winners. This guy is the real winner. Like everyone's focusing on, like when Lando won, everyone was focusing on Lando, yeah, Lando won this and that.
Okay, so since we're coming to the end of the stream and we've already covered what free practice and what qualifying is, everyone knows what race weekend and like now everyone knows what race day is generally like. But this is my question. As far as tire allocation goes back, I'm going to go take you guys back a little bit. From what I understood is they get a limited set of tires since the beginning of the season to the end of the season. They have to manage that. Is that true?
So each race weekend, they do get a limited set of tires depending upon the weather. So if it rains, then they also get wet tires, which basically helps perform in the wet conditions because the regular tires that they have are actually completely flat. The purpose of it being flat is to create traction. So we won't get too much into detail about the tire itself, but each race weekend, they are given 3 tire choices, a soft, a medium, and a hard. Now, they're given multiple sets based on what Pirelli, which is the tire manufacturer, recommends. So they basically give, let's say, 3 sets of softs or 4 sets of softs and 3 sets of mediums. And yes, per driver. Per driver, you get about 10 to 13 sets of tires. And they have to use it within the race weekend, or they choose, or they can not use it. I mean, up to the driver. I mean, looking at certain drivers who don't finish the race after the first corner, you'll end up with a few more tires. So don't need to use them.
Like, are you talking about Mazepin?
Maybe.
Yeah. So I had a question. What is with Alpine? Like, what is happening with that team? Like, it is very unpredictable. Like last race, that it just did not have the pace. Like
I would say they're performing really well. They've actually stepped it up. They've got one guy who is in short a world champion who can develop like a great car for them. And on the other hand, they've got a sort of young guy who's got a lot of talent, who's shown what he's capable of, getting really good quality results and race results, I would say. So I feel like they're making pretty good progress. Maybe we can see Alpine in P4, instead of Ferrari. So I feel like they're really stepping up the game to push ahead of Ferrari. Right now, they're mostly battling with the Alpha Tauris and the Aston Martins. But I really think that they are a team that even McLaren towards the end of the season might have to look out for. This is my prediction.
They were really good in Portimao. Car looked really great, but it was okay, black kind of a car in the Spanish GP. Like I think barely Ocon got into the points. He ended up P9.
P9, correct.
So I mean that's a gradual drop for a team, right? So about that,
it's I would say it doesn't always your cards aren't always the best cards. So sometimes we might see that your strategy looks brilliant to you, but someone else has just turned up with a better strategy. So I think he fell from what was P6 or something even below that, maybe P5 or something. He qualified in the Spanish Grand Prix.
He dropped points. Yeah, he dropped positions actually.
That does look bad, but yeah, he qualified P5 and he finished P9. So it does look bad if you look at it in that statistic manner. But you really have to consider the whole length of the race or what he might have gone through, that he might have dealt with more traffic, or they might have had a pit stop error. A lot of things play. So it's just good to see that he's consistently in the points though, because that is what will eventually get you a higher up position in the championship. That's all.
I mean, Ocon was always a good driver. I think he was a little underrated, but this year he's proving he's making a point. He's making a statement. Definitely. Where last year there were talks. There were talks that will if Ocon is not able to match Daniel Ricciardo, will he be able to match Alonso? And he's totally outplayed Alonso this season. I'm so happy about that. Because
he's just got something to prove, right? It's something that pushes him. It's the same with Lando. Lando has to ensure that he proves his worth, because he's up against a person who's won Grand Prix after Grand Prix, and who at one point has even finished, I think, P3 in the championship when he was Vettel's teammate in 2014. And Vettel literally was on a 4-year spree of winning championships. Daniel Ricciardo stepped in and beaten him, So he's really got something to prove. He knows that he's settled into the car, Lando. He knows he's settled into the car, but he's got to ensure that he has a step above Ricciardo. Same thing with Ocon and Alonso.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so let's now conclude this stream by taking some questions from the chat. There are quite a few. Gasly to Alpine? I don't know.
Possible. Yes.
Very possible. Yeah, possible. So, there were rumors last year only that he was in talks with Renault.
The thing is, both the driver and the team are French, and Ocon might move to Mercedes. The biggest problem for Gasly is that being in an Alpha Tauri, which is the sister team of Red Bull, you're not going to go with Red Bull. Like, it's just not going to happen. Knowing his history with the team and Helmut being Helmut, he's Helmut Marko. So, I don't see him moving into Red Bull. So what is his point? He's not going to win a championship in Alpha Tauri, and he's not there to fill in a vacancy. He's there to be competitive. So he's going to move to a spot, just like Ricciardo moved to a spot where he could actually show his colors. That's what, Gasly would have going on in his mind, that he needs to be in a spotlight where he can actually show his talent, not a sister team. So very possible.
Absolutely.
Because the way Christian Horner's एक छोटा सा point है, the way Christian Horner has been talking about Gasly is it's not very positive. Like he's been up top about Gasly not coming back to Red Bull, and
even I don't know why Christian Horner is making comments on Gasly in the first place. It's not his team. Technically, but it's not. No. It's like during the IPL, Owen Morgan, captain of Calcutta, was saying that Joss Butler and that guy, Ben Stokes, are going to open for Rajasthan. Tu kaun hai?
But exactly.
We do see Toto making comments on Russell now, don't we? So
same. Toto owns F1. Okay. He owns F1. He does not. He's not team principal at Mercedes. He is the owner of F1. He owns it. Okay.
I think he has a stake in Williams.
F1. Toto has a stake. I'm telling you, Toto owns the damn thing. The concept of F1 is owned by Toto Wolff.
He's more of an Austrian investor than he's basically an investor than more of a team principal or a technical guy.
His hands are in several pies, is all I can say.
Yeah.
Latifi was doing, Advait is asking, Latifi was doing great last year. He finished 11th a couple of times. He was ahead of George also in the standings before the Lewis COVID. But this year, Latifi isn't performing well. What are your thoughts? Sid, your thoughts first on this?
I think he's been making a lot of mistakes this year. And I think this year, George is going to really prove himself. George is on another plateau this year. I mean, he seems on a different ball game altogether, because I think he's decided that fuck this is my last year in Williams. I'm gonna get out of this team. Like he is a guy who wants to win a championship. Like even I feel that this is my theory. If Red Bull doesn't give a championship winning car to Max is out of this team. You can see Max in Mercedes next year. You never know.
With Lewis.
Lewis may not be there. Like Lewis, I think he's not signed the deal for 2022. It's only for 2021.
Lewis is not leaving Mercedes, man. Like he knows it's the best car on the grid. Why would he leave? Why would he go to a car that is not as he knows that it's not going to be as good as his car?
Yeah, I mean, he may just quit. Like, he will be like, let me just own Mercedes now. Let me just own Mercedes.
That is possible.
Let me just own a NASCAR team or an Indy team. Just chill a little.
Jamie, do you think George Russell is overrated? Chad seems to think so.
No, man, it's the second time you'll have asked me this. I think he's underrated. He's a brilliant driver, dude. He went up against Bottas, who's been in that seat since 2017, and he literally performed better than Bottas. That should tell you something about the guy. It should tell you something about what he can do with machinery when he has it, and when he barely got a few days to even get adjusted to it. The seat was not his size. He was too tall for it. When he asked for it to be adjusted, Toto said we can adjust your body. So, you gotta really. I feel like he's a brilliant driver. I don't know why I think he's overrated.
And even after the tire goof up, he overtook Bottas, and that was
he finished P7 or so after the tire goof up, but still, like he's a brilliant driver. I don't know how you'll get the fact that he's overrated.
with at Williams' car is not easy to drive, and
Not at all. Not at all.
And he's been getting the most out of that car.
Yeah, I mean, even the car is no longer slowest on the grid because we've got Haas on the grid, which is like literally like they should not participate. They're burning fuel and tires is what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So like Williams is a bit better than Haas. It's like there are 18 people on the grid. And for whoever said Latifi is performing badly this year than he was last year. Well, last year, the time where he finished P11, the one time where he finished P11 was the Austrian Grand Prix, and the number of people who finished the race were 11, which is why he finished 11. So, Russell is a brilliant driver since the beginning. And Latifi has just been there. This year, he's had a bit of bad luck with his start. I think 2 out of the last 4 races, he's got a DNF. One of them, I think, was Mazepin again doing something. I think hitting his car in Imola or something like that. I'm not
Mazepin is doing something. He's involved everywhere. Like
there was a meme that was talking about the number of people on the grid who like absolutely insulted the shit out of Mazepin.
Oh yeah, everybody.
Everybody. No one likes.
I think the count is at around 9 or 10 or something. Literally half the grid has had an incident with him in the last 4 races. Like seriously.
On that note, there are some questions, but first I'm going to address this. Said you have a fan in the chat who is saying सबसे पहले वेटल को निकालो, नौकरी कर रहा है वो.
नहीं यार ऐसे तो नहीं बोल सकते.
Sid, one of my favorite jokes that Sid has made, and he has the video up on YouTube also. He's talking about Sarfaraz Khan. And he's like, you look at all the other wicket keepers and they're playing the game, and Sarfaraz Khan you look at, he's like, oh, naukri karne aaya hai. So that's the reference that is being.
Yeah, Vettel. I still feel that Vettel has got a lot.
Vettel has a lot more to offer, man.
Yeah, he's got more to offer.
If at all you could say that maybe about him at Ferrari in the last 2-3 races.
Yeah. What do you feel, Jamie, about this? Like, what is your input on this? Vettel coming along in the later part of the
2018 is the reason why I always pull back to a certain number of years before we actually speak about this is because you've really got to look at why it's going on, what happened. So 2018 was the last time that Ferrari was even ahead of Mercedes, and it was with Vettel. And in Germany, he had a incident basically on his own. It was a driver error, and from leading the whole race, he basically DNF'd. And since that point of time till date, there has not ever been anyone else leading the championship apart from Mercedes. And that's the same point of time after which he didn't ever reach Hamilton again in the points, and Hamilton took off and won that year. And for those of y'all who don't know, Sebastian Vettel is a German, so he was racing in front of his home crowd. So coming back to the whole mental side of things, that has a huge, long-lasting effect on you. Even Nico Hülkenberg in 2019, where he was running in the podium spots, he went off and that was the end of his race. Till date, he mentions in interviews that, yeah, I really don't like looking back at that moment because it has a long-lasting effect on you. So the reason why Vettel has been, I would say, performing at a level lower than what he actually can achieve is because it's a few driver errors really, combined together. It's just him not, having the correct mindset. It looks like it, I can't say for sure, but that's what it looks like. And this is exactly where it started off. Since this point, it's been going somewhat of downhill for him. And then came Leclerc, who in his first season, really outdid himself and, I think finished P3. Sebastian was P5 in the championship. So that tells you a lot about what's going on and how his mind is actually, dealing with all this stuff. So we can maybe see a fight back. He's got a meh car at the moment, is not the best car. He's got a teammate who's definitely the preferred teammate, but he's a four-time world champion. You've got to give it to him that, he's achieved it. Whether it was when he was in the best car and everyone else had a terrible car, you just have to accept it and understand that he's quality. He can do what he has to do when he's provided the correct machinery.
Absolutely. On that note, I think we're going to conclude. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, and thank you.
Exciting weekend coming ahead.
Yeah, exciting.
We have got Formula 2, Formula 1, Formula 2 race also this coming weekend. So
we
after
will
a
be
while
back.
now, Formula 2.
Yeah.
Been so long since the last race.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big break.
Honestly,
I think Jehan had come down to India and on his small vacation he had and went back.
उसको आने जाने दिया क्या? ऐसा थोड़ी होता है.
अरे हाँ ये लोग आते हैं. अरे हाँ RT-PCR नहीं करा रहेगा उसने बराबर है.
ये अमीरों का अलग स्कीम रहता है dude.
Anyway,
sorry. Please.
He's one of the most down-to-earth people I know.
No. Of course, it's a joke. I don't know the guy, man. I don't know what he's doing.
No.
My job is not knowing the guy and making accurate comments about him.
We just here to make fun of people. That's it. No personal.
Whatever we say must not be taken to be the truth. It is all opinion.
Bottas is our favorite driver.
For those who are asking when is the next stream for F1 is going to be next Sunday. As usual, we're going to do this every Sunday, or at least we're going to try to, and definitely be there on race weekends to do. Sid and I will definitely be there to do a little pre-race gupshup, like the gossiping that we like to do about कौन ये क्वाली में उसको उसने उंगली किया है ना, तो वो मतलब किया तो है ही, हम लोग ने बोला मतलब किया है. Next stream of F1 is going to be Sunday, and we're also coming back midweek for our regular dose of Couch Pundits cricket. So stay tuned for that. If you guys like what we do, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, make the channel grow, and eventually we will make money from it. Who knows? Anything is possible. That's it. Thank you everyone. Thank you everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
There should be after race stream also. This is the after race stream. What? After the Spanish GP, here we are. But if there are
more of these, we'll try to have more of these.
If the numbers go higher, maybe we can do a stream on Monday for the post race of Sunday. But for that, guys, you need to like the stream, spread it, share the content and all that. So you can follow Sid and Jamie on Instagram. You can follow Couch Pundits on Instagram. The links are there in the description. And once again, thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you, Sid and Jamie. I'm going to end the stream. Bye.
You guys.
Bye. Thank you so much, guys.
End.